Today I'm going for our first run in the Craft CTM Ultra Carbon. .96 miles, 8 minutes, 2 seconds per mile, 161 beats per minute on average. Really trying to get out there and push the CTM Ultra Carbon in some harsh conditions here in Chicago and having an absolutely fantastic time. I can't wait to tell you about this shoe, but before I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a shoe that I received on loan from Believe in the Run. Craft sent them this shoe in a size 9. They didn't have a size 9 tester in-house, so I volunteered to be the one to get to take this shoe out and put it through the paces. I had an absolutely fantastic time, by the way, but all my normal review parameters apply. No one's paying me to make this video or to use this shoe, and no one's gonna get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts, not even Believe in the Run, before this video goes up on YouTube. So with the disclosures out of the way, let's talk about the Craft CTM Ultra Carbon. 40 millimeters a stack height in this shoe. It's as tall as you can get, at least for a World Athletics road marathon race. Pretty tall back here with a 10 millimeter drop, which is substantial. A one-piece engineered mesh upper, which is super light and breathable. It's hard to tell with this pattern that's on here, but it's pretty much see-through for a lot of the upper, except for where there's an extra level of overlay on top of all the lace eyelets and around the back of the shoe. And there's a little strip that goes across the big toe. On the outsole, we've got super chunky lugs, which is a bit of a surprise for something that has a carbon fiber plate in it. 3 millimeter rubber lugs and lots of rubber coverage on the outsole. And in the midsole, that's the real story about this shoe. We've got what Craft is calling its Ultra platform. We've got a sandwich of foam and carbon in here. We've got vault foam, kind of is the main portion of the shoe. The vault foam is supposed to be a light material, a durable EVA based foam. Inside that vault foam is a forked carbon fiber plate, which is supposed to help you on cornering and also on uneven surfaces. It's also supposed to help you with a little bit of torsion to help keep things nice and stable. On top of the carbon fiber plate is another but different layer of vault foam, where this layer of vault foam is even lighter and has an even higher level of rebound. On top of that is an insole, which is nice and soft and springy. The stated weight for this entire package comes in just over 9 ounces at 9.17 ounces. So what is this shoe for with all these pieces put together? I think this shoe is a shoe that can definitely be taken out for a road marathon, something that can handle speedy, long race efforts very well. But because of this outsole pattern and the way that this shoe is set up, I think that it also can definitely handle light trail or softer surfaces that you might have out there. So if you have a dry, packed trail or grassy surfaces that you're going to be running on, I think this is definitely going to be able to handle it. For me today, I had a variety of surfaces I was running on. I was running on some kind of access road type of packed dirt trails. I also had a lot of pavement that I was running on. And then things got really nasty over by the lakefront, so I had to get off of the lakefront path and head over onto some surface streets here in Chicago. We're in the middle of a winter storm, and so lots of messy, slushy, kind of gross stuff to be running in, lots of slippery stuff. But I will have to say that the grip on this shoe is just absolutely phenomenal. There was only one or two very rare spots where I felt like the traction wasn't quite what I wanted to be for the speeds that I was running. And that's right at the Hancock building, that whole plaza, that entire block. The stones that they have there, it's just super slippery. So it's an unusual situation, very smooth, slick rock, but running through streets, running through sidewalks, running through parks, grass, dirt, uphill, downhill, all of that, I felt really secure in this shoe. It was amazing. It was just like I could just plow through anything that I wanted to get through, and it really didn't matter. The only thing slowing me down wasn't the traction, but it was just all the other snow and slush and drifts that were getting in my way. That certainly made the run very challenging for the day. That being said, I was able to still get this shoe up to faster paces, and that's where I really got a chance to test out what the carbon is like in this Ultra Carbon. Now, in terms of slowing down, this shoe does a fantastic job, surprisingly, at slower speeds. So there is a very aggressive rocker up front. That's the main thing that I noticed first thing once I started walking around and running in this shoe. It seems like, I mean, you've already got a 10mm drop in this shoe, and then the drop at the front just seems really aggressive. So that is something that I think helps out with the kind of the dynamics of this shoe in terms of even at slower or recovery paces, being able to feel like the shoe is turning over very quickly. At the lower speeds, I'm getting a lot of this vault foam that's in here, and I think the vault foam is pretty nice. It's a little bit on the firmer side. It's not getting a squish. I'm not getting a real like pingy bounce. It reminds me a lot. I'd say the closest thing it reminds me to is the Power Run PB that's in the Endorphin Pro in terms of the way that it feels underfoot. In another way, it might kind of also feel a little bit like the DNA Flash that's in the Hyperion Elite 2. Those are kind of like the two sensations that came closest to mind in terms of like what is like the feeling like, what is the bounce like, what is the impact like when running in the shoe, at least at those slower speeds. And then once you start to pick up the speed, getting up from moderate, I went from moderate all the way up to past 5K pace in the shoe. I tried to have a little bit more of a structured workout for today, some deliberate marathon paces and some deliberate half marathon paces, and then some strides at the end. But with the weather conditions being what they were, sometimes in the areas where I would have wanted to run faster, just completely covered in snow drifts or freezing lake water and icy slush. So I ran quickly when I could run quickly, and I ran slower when I had to run slower. But I did get all of those paces in over the course of the run today. And the general sensation I felt was at slower speeds, I'm getting all of that vault foam. The more you pick it up, the more that the forked carbon fiber plate really starts to come to life. And I think that it reminds me generally of like the carbon fiber plates that you would think of when you think of carbon plate racers, where I feel like I'm getting some impact absorption when your foot hits the ground, and I'm getting a nice forward push when my foot is pushing off the ground. And I felt like the harder I was pushing into the carbon, the faster I was going, the more I was working, the more the carbon kept giving back to me. I'm not sure where the kind of power curve drops off on this, because I felt like the further that I was able to push it as a non-elite runner, it was still able to stay with me and keep pushing back. I actually think that, like the Endorphin Pro, which is a shoe where I felt like the carbon fiber plate in there, I wasn't strong enough to really get like the full benefit of it. I wasn't reaching its full potential in that shoe. I feel like there might be a little bit of top end that I'm not quite able to access in this shoe, at least not on a relatively flat route like I ran here in Chicago. That being said, because this shoe is intended to not only be run on flat, fast courses or potentially even trail races, I felt like that's something, if I'm going downhill, I'm going to really appreciate the little extra level of carbon fiber springiness that I can still access that I'm not getting when I'm running flat and fast. Given that it's intended for this road and trail usage, let's talk about this outsole that's on here a little bit more. The outsole here did fantastic, as I've been talking about and raving about so far in the video, in kind of nasty stuff, in the slush, in the slippery stuff, in the snow. Felt very secure in it. But when it was, not that it was ever really dry out there, but when I felt like conditions were at least cleared enough for me to really push forward and try to get some more speed, I felt like I wasn't held back by this rubber outsole to a significant degree. Yes, there's extra weight that's on the bottom of the shoe that if this were purely a flat, fast, dry marathon racer type of shoe that I'd want to not see there. But for something that's going to be a road trail shoe hybrid, a crossover racer, so to speak, I really felt like this is a fantastic implementation of a really grippy outsole. I didn't feel like I was racing in a trail shoe when I was on the road. I just felt like I was on a really grippy outsole. When it's not really needed, it kind of stays out of the way, and it's really impressive that they've been able to do that. It's not a very stiff, hard rubber, not the kind that you might see in some really heavy, intense trail shoes where it's like really gripping into like the side of a mountain. This is a nice rubber that gives you lots of grip through the pattern and through the three-dimensional like depth of the lugs, but it's still a relatively soft rubber compound that's not going to take away and dampen too much of what else this shoe is trying to do in terms of the combination of the EVA foams and the carbon fiber plate. So really fantastic execution in terms of the outsole. Now let's talk about the upper of this shoe. The one thing that I will say in terms of the upper and the fit is that this has a really generous toe box for a racing shoe. I was expecting, like looking at this shoe, that I was gonna have to squeeze my foot to really get it in here. Not because the sizing was gonna be wrong. The sizing, I went true to size in the size 9, and I think this is the perfect size for this shoe for me. There's just a lot of room in here, and I wasn't expecting that. Very, very pleasant surprise. Really enjoyed that, especially for something that's gonna be intended for use on not just a flat, fast course, but something that may have some turns and a lot of hilly elevation changes. Definitely something that I appreciated in this shoe, but the upper is still able to lock me down very confidently in here. The material that's on the sides and around the back is not permeable, or it seems less permeable to water than the mesh that's on the midfoot cage and on the toe box here. And overall, it's not a waterproof shoe. It's not a weatherproof shoe. Icy cold water definitely got in the shoe today, but I do feel like, thankfully, the water that did get in there did get out quickly, and I felt like this stuff in the back helped for a lot of that stuff to not really get into the shoe. So as far as a not weatherized shoe was to run in these types of conditions, I was really surprised at how well this shoe did. When my feet first got really wet, like just up to my ankles in lake water, I was worried that I was gonna have to call off the run early because that water is just so really cold. But I was able to warm my feet up relatively quick right after that. The area with of this upper that gave me a ton of problems though is right here in the back. Now, the mesh on the midfoot and the forefoot is this single layer, very see-through. In the back, that's lined with this kind of black material. And this black material, in addition, I don't know if it's the black material or it's the overlay that's doing this, but it is making it so it's very sharp. And so this part right back here started cutting into the back of my ankles pretty quick. On my left foot, on this foot, I started feeling that within the first quarter mile running in the shoe. At first I was thinking, did just some snow get back in there? Maybe it got pinched. After a while, I was like, no, it's definitely not snow. This thing is really cutting into the skin right around the Achilles. By the end of the run, both of my feet were really hurting. I had some pretty terrible blisters back there, some cuts to the back of the Achilles. So I had over the calf socks on for today. Not the thickest ones, but I did have plenty of sock coverage on there. So that's not something that I would really expect. If I were to run in the shoe a lot more, I'm probably gonna have to try and figure out a way to do something about this because this cut into me so bad. Part of that might be the fact that, you know, my foot strike isn't quite like front to back. It's a little bit kicked out to the side. And so I think this part right here is especially digging into me right over here. So that might just be me, but I think that is going to be an issue that comes up with a lot of people, is just what's going on here. So something to watch out for there. But overall, this shoe, I think, has so many use cases. In Chicago, I run in Chicago in the winter time, so this is a shoe that I can certainly reach for my speed days. Now, I've been running in a lot of the Marathon Super shoes in some snowy conditions. Some do better than others. This certainly very easily does the best because of the ample grip that's on the bottom. I do think that the weight does become a little bit of a problem if you're trying to go flat and fast on a dry road surface. That 9.17 ounces does start to make itself known the more you're trying to turn those legs over. But This running in this shoe is super exciting. There's a nice pleasant power curve all the way from easy runs all the way up to your top end, and it makes me want to go out there and find a trail race to go compete in to really see what this thing can do when I fully let it loose. I had a fantastic time raging on in this shoe today. Such perfect conditions to run in this shoe. Really excited about what this means from Craft in terms of their future offerings. I've been a big fan of Craft's running apparel, especially their winter running apparel, the Sub Z line. I've been running in that stuff for years. It's helping me stay warm out there, helping me to train hard, and a shoe like this is definitely something that can help you race hard as well in full Craft kit. So those are my thoughts on the Craft Ultra Carbon after just this one really fun run. Let me know in the comments if you have any other questions. Also, stay on the lookout for a write-up that I'll be doing for Believe in the Run, and I'm going to be hopping onto a live stream of theirs in the very near future, so keep an eye out on the internet for that. Also, if you want to stop by the live stream that I do just about every day on YouTube, you can ask me more questions about this shoe or anything running related, shoe related. I'd love to talk to you guys there. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. Hopefully you're staying safe out there on your runs, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?